Welcome to Within My Mind. Hello, my name's Ethan. Within my mind, I've been thinking about many different things. This time I was thinking about how people want waifus and husbandos alive in real world. And I was thinking about how that would come to pass. And so I've gotten my thoughts straight, and I'm talking to you seriously about how I believe the stepping stones would be to make them a reality. So here is the building bricks to make a waifu or husbando. Now, I should point out, I don't have a degree in robotics or engineering or anything. This is just what I believe the steps would be like. And if this helps people come up with any ideas or what they should think on what to do, or some certain steps that they can have to actually make this a fruition, I'd be glad to help. That's it. This is just my own opinions on this. Take it with a grain of salt, if you will. Alright, so if you want to make a waifu or husbando, you'll probably need some basic things. First off, we'll start with the first layer, a skeleton frame. Now, human bones are able to heal, which is something that humans are well known to do, and it's one of the ways we survive. However, a cybernetic organism would not be able to handle this. So, it will need to have a strong metallic frame in order to hold everything together and make sure it can survive itself. Human bones can break easily. However, strong enough metals will be difficult to break apart. So that's probably the best substitute for that I can possibly think of. And I'm sure some of you out there would agree. Pretty standard stuff at the moment. Now let's go to the second layer, joints and motor functions. This is quite simple. Support any area that can move, make sure it's able to move, and make sure it has hinges and everything in order to keep it able to move. As I said before, I don't have a degree in robotics or anything, but this is basic functionality. And if you want your waifu or husbando to be lifelike, well, I assume you want them to move. Anyway, now let's get into the more intermediate stuff. Onto the third layer, and probably a really important layer, the cooling systems. Now, for what we have for our waifu or husbando, it will be likely, in order to keep all this from working, it will all generate a frick ton of heat, making it heat up quickly. Now, by using a type of procedure you use on a computer called overclocking, you can have a powerful hard drive system work perfectly, but you need to have a really strong cooling system for it. So, we put a liquid coolant within the system in order to keep it flowing. And if we keep it flowing, it will keep it cool and make sure that it works perfectly well. And now onto the fourth layer, which is pretty important, the exoskeleton. Now, an exoskeleton is something an insect has to protect the insides of it. However, we're going to have an exoskeleton to protect not only the skeleton, but also everything important in it. The coolants, the joints, the motory functions, everything. Keep it safe and make sure it's hard to damage. That would be a pretty standard part to have for it. A good example of this would be the Terminator. How it has a skin, but underneath it has a robotic shell, which holds all the wires and everything in it. That is pretty much the best way to describe it. And now onto the trickier layer, the artificial skin. Now, assuming you want your wife or husband to have skin, it would need to have a sensory input system for it. Meaning how well it can touch and how hard it can grip. All of this is something humans can do by sensory means. We send electrical impulses from our skin to our brain, and it sends the feeling of touch throughout our bodies. And this would be the case as well for any synthetic life form. Now let's talk about things that make a wife or a husbando. Their individuality. You'd want to talk about their personality. How responsive they are to a situation. How they emote. How they handle certain technology. You'd also want them to be able to talk well with you and be someone that you can rely on. Those are very important things. And just in case you missed it, I made a little acronym there for you. It's pretty, isn't it? Anyway, back to the point on hand. The human brain is what handles this for us. It allows us to reason. It allows us to think. It allows us to solve puzzles or situations. It also helps control our body functions, and it helps define our individual personalities. Now, in order to do this, you need a massive supercomputer to handle all that. However, it'd be difficult to make one that would fit within a humanoid body, especially within the head. This will be the biggest challenge on creating a wife or a husbando. Consider this. It would need to function just like a brain. You can take one situation and think of millions and billions of different responses or reactions to every possible situation. And then you'd have to divide that individually based on what your wife or husbando's personality is like. That's what will make it extra difficult to maintain such a system. Is the fact that there's so much different personalities you can have and different thought processes. That's why you've got to be careful. And that's why this would prove to be extremely difficult to program as well. And now for the skeptics that believe that a wife or a husbando cannot benefit anyone, let's talk about what they can actually have to support us in our real world situations. For example, you can have them walk your dog or feed your fish or water the plants, or you can do more practical stuff. You can use them for medical assistance. They'll be able to diagnose you. They'd be able to go to sick people and won't be affected by the illnesses and be able to treat them. They'd be able to help people who are struggling to live on their own and help them cope with life. They can even be used for different applications, like you can make them be shopkeepers or have them be your own personal computer, or make them able to buy or sell on their own. The best examples for this would be the anime Chobits or the game Detroit Become Human. That's what will make them work. Now, talking about the benefits would also include disadvantages. I'm sure most weebs wouldn't want to hear this, but it needs to be addressed. For one, the maintenance issues you'd have. This will be untested technology, and it would be expensive as hell. It'd be hard to maintain. Well, with all the metal, the computer technology, the artificial skin, everything would be difficult to maintain. And of course, there will be restrictions to this as well. Like, for example, some of them wouldn't be allowed in certain places, or they wouldn't be able to be on a plane, or whatever. I'm not sure of most restrictions that would be placed, but this would give you a small idea on how it works. And I'm positive this would happen. Certain waifus and husbandos would not be allowed to be made. I know you don't want to hear it, but it's true. I'm not bashing anyone whose waifu was this, but be honest, would you want to be running around in a world with, what, like 10,000 Gasais or something? Because that would be kind of scary. So yeah, there's going to be some limitations on who would be able to be made. And that's my thoughts on waifus and husbandos being made real. Hope you enjoyed my thoughts, and if this helps, like, researchers, scientists, billionaires, whatever, who want to make waifus a real thing, well, I hope this video would give you the small steps you'd need to start thinking on the process to do it. And I will probably do something like this later. Thank you for watching. See ya.